G'day guys and welcome back to MotoringBox. On today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit unusual. I'm going to be giving you a channel update, but it's going to be entirely via voice. And I will of course be able to show you some things on screen as we go. But the reason I'm doing it this way is because we've got some truly awful weather here in southeast Queensland this weekend. So I'm definitely staying indoors, as are a lot of other people. So in today's update, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. And first of all, I want to touch on the fact that we are nearing almost 20,000 subscribers here on the MotoringBox YouTube channel. And I'm really thrilled with that. I can't believe that there's a whole lot of you people out there who enjoy watching my videos and enjoy watching them enough to actually hit subscribe and come along for the ride. So I'd like to give you all a really huge thank you for sticking by me, subscribing to the channel, and getting involved in the comments section, because I really enjoy sitting here reading all your comments. I used to try and reply to every single one of them, but because of the quantity of the comments I receive these days, I probably can't continue doing that because I'd rather spend the time creating new video content. So I do reply to quite a few comments, but I can't really do all of them anymore. So please accept my apologies if you've commented on one of my videos and I didn't reply. Rest assured I have read it, but I just can't reply to every single one. People often ask me, what are my future plans for MotoringBox? And I feel a bit guilty, but the answer is probably I don't really have any. My channel these days is really just bringing you guys along for the ride with what I'm actually doing on a given weekend anyway, even if I wasn't filming. So, I'm doing maintenance on cars, I'm going out on trips and things like that. And of course, every now and then I'll do a special, full feature video on a car. But I guess those are sort of few and far between. I do have a new one in the works for the BA Falcon, of course, but it's probably going to be another month or two before you even see that. But yes, these days I do get a lot of enjoyment out of fixing up my cars and showing you guys how you can do little simple jobs in the garage as well. I'm not a mechanical expert, and I definitely do get things wrong from time to time because I'm learning as well, just like all of you guys. So yeah, sometimes people in the comments section will pull me up on some of the things I've been doing. For example, on this one here about my AU Fairmont's dirty little secret, had a couple of comments here about the spark plugs I used, which were of course copper when the original ones were iridium. And it's a valid point. I'm not a spark plug expert. I just ordered a kit off eBay and fitted the plugs that came along with it. The leads, of course, were completely wrong. So, this video probably wasn't my finest hour, but the car is running a lot better than it did before. And I reckon a massive part of that is probably due to the oil that I put in. I have been using the Newlon full synthetic oil a lot recently, and I do find it to be a really good product. The engines run super smoothly with that oil. So yeah, I don't really get everything right all the time, but I am trying. So I really hope you guys can appreciate that. So as I mentioned, I do have a feature video in the works for the BA Falcon. I do have some pretty grand plans for it as well, so it's definitely going to take me quite a while to put it together. I'm definitely hoping to have it out before the end of this year. But yeah, definitely don't hold your breath. Just give it a bit of time and then hopefully one day you'll suddenly see it pop up on your YouTube subscription list. For that full feature video, I'm probably going to do it as a premiere, which is what I did on my goodbye and hello video. And what that means is people can watch the video in real time along with everyone else, and it's kind of like a live stream, but it isn't live. But I really enjoyed with this video watching it along with all of you and reading the chats as it went. It really added an element of excitement for me, and it's something I'm not going to forget for a really long time. I was really amazed to sit here and read through everyone's reactions as they were watching the video, so I think I'm really going to get a kick out of watching, my next feature film with the live chat running beside it. And it's a really cool way for you guys to interact with each other as well as you're watching, kind of as one big MotoringBox family, so I'm really looking forward to that. So that's coming up in the sort of distant future. In the immediate future, I've got a video coming out next week for the BA Falcon, which is something a lot of you have been waiting for. Here's a little preview on the timeline here of my Adobe Premiere project. But yes, definitely stick around for that. You can also see my new number plates here on the car. I decided to get some personalized plates here in Queensland. I think they sort of set the car off pretty nicely. I think some of you can easily guess what this video is going to be about, but for the rest of you, you'll have to stick around and wait for it to be released. And speaking of the BA Falcon, I am currently pretty happy with the cars that I own. I'm really enjoying the BA, and I still love to drive the old AU Fairmont around as well. It was really satisfying to perform that vital maintenance on it last week because it really did improve the way that car drives. It's now just that little bit smoother, and it almost feels like it's got a bit more power as well. There's less hesitation when you put your foot down on the throttle. So I'm really enjoying still having that car in the garage. It's not something I'm going to sell off anytime soon. And the AU is also useful because I've done, of course, that mobile office meals video where I compared the Big Mac to the Big Jack. That's something I definitely want to do more of. So if you guys have got any ideas on what else I can do, fast food wise anyway, I had someone suggest that I compare, all of the chicken nuggets from the different fast food restaurants. And I think that's a really good one, even though I'm not really a chicken nugget sort of guy. But that's one I've got on the list. But if anyone else has any ideas, do let me know because I had a lot of fun producing that video. It wasn't one of my most popular ones ever, but it was good fun. And it gives me an excuse to bust out the AU Falcon office table as well, which is a really cool thing. But one thing I've been thinking about with my cars is the BA Falcon has a use. The AU Falcon also has a use, but my NC Fairlane doesn't really. And I have found over the last couple of months that I have been driving it a lot less. So it's kind of like a statue that I've got sitting in my garage, and it's a little bit useless, dare I say it. But times do change, and I have gotten a lot out of that car. I've really enjoyed owning it. But sometimes, I do have that feeling that it's time to move it on. So we'll see. Sometimes I'll take it out for a drive and all of a sudden my opinion will be completely reversed. I'll definitely think I'll have to keep it, but yeah, at the moment, I'm sort of leaning towards whether or not I should get rid of that car because it would allow me to do some other things, to open up a slot in the garage for something else. And there are a lot of other things I could be doing. I sometimes think it'd be really cool to purchase a cheap manual car of some kind. I was even thinking of like a VP manual Commodore Ute or something like that. Something really cheap that I don't really care much about. And it'd be really cool to use a car like that on some track days, and we could even do a little bit of a mini build series on it to get it ready for a track experience. But that's just one of those things that runs through my head, and if it meant that I had to move a car on in order to do something like that, well, it's something we've got to think about, isn't it? In other Motoring Box channel news, I've also got a PO box. You'll see it here on my video description. Well, not this one actually, because this video is a little bit older, but if you check out some of my more recent videos, down in the video description here, you'll see a PO box. There we go. And I decided to sign up for a PO box because I think it's a really cool way for people to get involved with the channel if they wish. Now, if you've got any little parts or things like that you reckon I would have some benefit of receiving, definitely send them through. And anything else like letters or stickers or cool old brochures or things like that. If you've got some stuff kicking around that you reckon I would get a kick out of having a look at, feel free to send it on through. I haven't got any more concrete plans for that box apart from that, but in the future, there's even the option of if we were building sort of a track day car or something like that, it could sort of be a built by Motoring Box sort of a project where if you guys have got stickers or even, cheap parts that you don't have any use for that would be useful for me to fit to the car, and I would be able to use those parts and get some benefit from them. So, have a think about it, and perhaps together we can come up with a plan. And yeah, anything else you'd like to send me to help support the channel, it would definitely be welcome. And the last thing I'd like to touch on is, of course, I've been looking for a local workshop or mechanic in the Brisbane or Ipswich area to get involved with the channel. And I've really come up against a brick wall on every single avenue I've tried to pursue. There are a lot of mechanics who are interested in doing work for me, but they don't want to be filmed, and that's really the main goal of what I'm after. I think it'd be really cool to get involved with a local mechanic around the southeast Queensland area. I could take my vehicles to them on a semi-regular basis and get them to look over them and also get involved with some of the bigger modifications or maintenance jobs, which I'm not really willing to handle myself in the garage. So yeah, if there's any mechanics listening to this and you'd like to be involved with the channel, I'd really appreciate it because I'm not looking for any freebies or anything here. I'll definitely pay for the work. I'm not even after a discount. I just want to get someone involved with the channel. And, it'd help to promote your business and even turn you into a sort of a mini celebrity amongst the YouTube car demographic. So have a think about it. I'll put an email up on the screen, and if you want to get involved, get in touch. So that's it as far as updates go. So what I'll do now is I'll go to my community tab, which I would recommend is something you guys keep an eye on from time to time, because occasionally I will post some things up in here for you guys to check out. It'll be little teaser pictures to do with upcoming videos. And also, like the most recent one, I put the call out there because I wanted to let you guys know that I was filming this update, and if you had any questions that you would like me to answer, to comment below. So let's run through a couple of these and see what they say. So the first one here is from Matchstick1101, who wants to know if I will ever buy a Statesman or Caprice as a comparison to the NC Fairlane. He would really love to see it one day. I'd really love to see that as well, but it's probably not something I'm going to look at soon. At one stage, I was on the hunt for, I think it's a VQ Statesman, which is really the NC Fairlane's main competitor from the early 90s. But the unfortunate thing is they are really quite rare these days. So the VQ Statesman would have been a really good car to compare to the NC Fairlane, but I'm probably not going to buy one, at least in the short term, because they're going up in value and they're worth quite a lot of money. The next question is from Macho Chick Wing, who doesn't have a question but suggested that I should make a video on buying used cars, like how not to get ripped off and whatnot. I think I'd probably be the worst person to make a video like that because I do kind of have a knack of picking really good used cars, but a lot of it seems to be just luck and a gut feeling. The AU Fairmont I bought, I went and had a look at that car, and on first impressions, it looked really honest, even though it was a little bit rough around the edges, but it didn't have any maintenance history at all. And it was really an unknown quantity, but I still bought it anyway. I sort of took a bit of a gamble on that, and it paid off, luckily. With the NC Fairlane, I did pay a pretty high price compared to what those cars are worth in order to get that particular example. But I guess the technique is really, I try to focus on the bodywork first. If the car has really straight panels and really good paint, it's a pretty good indication that it has been looked after and at least kept in a garage. So that's probably my first go-to thing. Second one is probably maintenance history, if it does have any. But if it doesn't, I really just have a look around the engine bay or get down on the ground and have a look under the engine as well, just for oil leaks and things like that. If the car drives really smoothly, if it's not making any strange noises, then really you're probably onto a pretty good thing. The next question is from Brad, who wants to know my thoughts on the price of used cars like the XR6 Turbo and how it's probably doubled or tripled in price since you bought it. I think that's quite an interesting question, especially for the XR6 Turbo, because ever since COVID hit, or even possibly before, I have noticed the prices of those have been on the rise. I think it was about mid-2019, I started looking for XR6 Turbos. And you could easily find, decent examples for around 5 or 6 grand. But now they're sort of like 9 or 10 or even higher. And it's really hard to judge, what is the actual price you should be paying for a car like that. But, it depends on the condition of the car. If a car pops up and it's the exact color you're looking for, it's in good condition, and you're not sure when the next time is you're going to see another one for sale, then you probably should jump on it if you're fairly happy with the price. Because really what a car is worth is what someone's willing to pay for it. Some people think that after COVID dies down that the prices are going to drop, but I don't really think that's the case, especially for XR6 turbos, because especially now since that the Americans have found out about the Barra turbo engines, even the naturally aspirated Barra motors are being shipped over to the States by the container load. So I think there's always going to be a really high demand for XR6 turbos. You might see a drop on some other sort of non-enthusiast cars, but really that remains to be seen. The next one is from Reese Johnston, who said, without revealing too much information, what's a rough estimate on how much these cars we've seen on the channel set you back financially, including services, breakdowns, etc.? Well, the NC Fairlane cost me, I can probably tell you how much that cost. It cost me about $5,000, but that was about 4 years ago, and I think the prices have gone up since then. And that is the only car that I own that's actually broken down on me properly. I was driving along one day and the wiring for the fuel pump actually shorted out on the body and totally took the voltage that was running to the pump down to about 4 volts. So that caused the pump to stop working. And my car, of course, rolled to the side of the road. Without any tools, I wasn't able to sort of troubleshoot things or work out what was going on. So I had to go home with the car on the back of a flatbed truck. I've spent, a couple of $100 maintaining it, but nothing crazy. With the AU, it's very similar. You can get an AU for a lot cheaper, for sort of, 2 or 3 grand if you want to get a pretty good one. Won't give you an exact price on what I paid for mine, but as you would have seen in my recent video, I have sort of neglected that thing mechanically and maintenance-wise, so I haven't really spent much on that car at all. Again, probably just a couple of $100. And for the BA, that's far and away the most expensive car that I've ever bought. As I mentioned, it was between 5 or 10 grand. And I've also spent a considerable amount maintaining it and just trying to fix it up and get it running right. Even though it did come with a pretty good maintenance history, it has been a little bit more troublesome compared to the AU Falcon. So that's interesting. Jaden Taylor wants to know if I'm going to get a Territory next. I think a Ford Territory would be pretty cool, but I'm also tempted by a Holden Adventra, which was their 4x4 station wagon. It'd be really cool to get one of those vehicles and then take it somewhere off-road. Somewhere perhaps like Fraser Island, where it'd really challenge the capabilities of the vehicle. So that's definitely on the list, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. Shred Shed wants to know if I'm going to grow my hair out. It looked great long. I think that's far too late for me to do just because I am balding on the top. But rest assured, I have a really good supply of mullet wigs, so you're going to see me with long hair on the channel in the near future. Ollie D wants to know if I could mix and match the very best bits of the Fords that I've owned or known, what would the result be? I have thought about this and I reckon the answer is a little bit controversial. I would probably say the body and suspension of the AU Falcon because I really love how that car drives, but probably with the engine and the gearbox from the BA Falcon. So if I had a Barra-powered turbocharged AU Falcon that was comfortable to drive on long trips and go interstate and things like that, that's probably the car I would go for. Minimaster wants to know why I started MotoringBox. Basically, the short answer is I was a really big fan of the British TV show Top Gear, and I really thought it'd be cool to use my limited sort of film and video editing knowledge to start producing some car videos on YouTube. And of course, focusing on Australian cars, because the more content we have on YouTube for Australian cars, the better. So that's really why I started it. TJ1097 wants a fan meetup. I really would like to do that, but the unfortunate thing is if I tried to set one up, I reckon there's a pretty good chance the police would be cornering us into whatever car park we set up in. So it's really a bit of a risk. But yeah, have a think about it. Someone's suggesting we go to Hungry Jackson Springfield. Hey, you could do that. But yeah, there is a risk. And the last thing I want is to get a whole lot of fans in a car park and then have the police go through and defect everyone. Zane wants to know my opinion on the Magna or 380, which are from Mitsubishi, obviously, and are the often neglected competitors to the Falcon and the Commodore. I don't really have an opinion apart from the fact that I don't really like front-wheel drive cars generally, but I have heard they're really good drives, both of them, the Magna and the 380, so I really would like to check one or both of them out in the future. The next question is from Rufus XD, who wants to know what's my opinion on tyres for track use. It might be a silly question, but he can't find crap about it. Can't even find a tyre for a 16-inch rim. I think the rim size might be your biggest problem there. I don't really know a lot about track tyres either. I do have some tyre knowledge, but I do know that some of the more sportier track-orientated tyres, you're probably going to need at least a 17 or 18-inch rim because 15 and 16 inches are sort of becoming less common these days, especially for those sporty applications. So you might need to do a bit of research on what's the tyre you're after and then see what sort of wheel you're going to need to buy in order to fit that tyre to it. And the next question is from David Fingermuncher, and I know this is a joke question, but he wants to know who does my hair. I think it's pretty obvious who does my hair, but I would like to talk about that for a second because I think it was back in 2012 I noticed that my hairline was receding, and for years, I think it was like the next 4 or 5 years, I had one of those hairstyles where I tried to sort of conceal the fact that the hairline was receding. But eventually, I just thought, stuff it, it's time to shave it off. So if anyone out there is in a similar position, you're starting to go bald across the top, and you're really stressing out about it, I recommend you just shave it off, because my hair went from something that I was really worried about almost the entire day to something now that I don't even have to think about, and I don't really care. It turns out that no one cared when I shaved my head. I didn't even get any bad reactions or anything like that. So it turns out, the person who cares the most about it is probably yourself. That's my advice anyway. And we have Queensland Ballistics, who wants to see part 2 of my AU Fairmont servicing. I definitely want to service the gearbox and also the differential, so stay tuned. Probably won't be next week or within the next couple of videos, but I will get around to it eventually. Felix the Cat wants to know if I'm going to modify the XR and when are you going to replace the clutch. With the second one, keep an eye out because that's coming soon. And as for modifications, I have found out a couple of things about that car, so I'm going to have to touch on them in a future video, but there definitely will be some more modifications coming that car's way. Austin Crossland wants to know, where do I find the cars that are still straight and true in southeast Queensland? Because everyone is selling one that's already been ruined. That's really true. The best piece of advice I can give is wherever you're looking for cars, I've had a lot of luck on Facebook Marketplace. But the key with Facebook Marketplace is to keep searching. Like if you're after a particular car, just keep searching for it almost like every hour of every day, because you really need to pounce on these cars exactly when they get listed, because if you don't, someone else is going to snap them up. So yeah, probably the best tip is to really focus your search and then just keep searching for that car every day, every week, every month until you find the one you want. Alpha Raptor wants to know if I'm going to put a sports exhaust on the BA or the NC. I have thought about a sports exhaust for both of those cars. I reckon the BA is probably going to cop one in the future. I'm still a little bit undecided on the NC, but we'll see about that. DT wants to know if I'm going to put a turbo side intake on the XR6. The short answer is no, so I'll leave it at that. James Dixon wants to know, if I had to get another Holden, what would you get? I don't know. I'd probably get something like a VN or a VP Commodore, or even a VE Commodore as well. Could be quite interesting to have a look at. I'm not really a massive Holden fan, but I do look at them from time to time. It'd probably be a Commodore of some description at the very least. Bailey Oakey wants to know if I'm looking at other cars to feature in my videos to educate us about the car and its history. I am always looking to do that, and of course the BA Falcon is going to be the next topic I'm going to film. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout for quirky Australian cars. I actually found a really unique one for sale on car sales just today, but it is a little bit overpriced for what it is. They're wanting $10,000 for it. I'm not going to tell you what sort of car it is, but I would never think that particular car would be worth that much money. So I'm going to keep my eyes open to see if that price comes down or whether I can find one cheaper elsewhere. Matthew wants to know what inspired me to buy and make videos on Australian Fords and Holdens. And the simple answer to that is really, I think we've made some really unique cars here in Australia, and it'd be really cool to share them with the world, especially the Americans. Ford is obviously an American company, but I did wonder how much the Americans knew about the Australian Fords that we produced here. So I, of course, made one about the NC Fairlane, and that video, after a couple of months, just blew up. The Americans loved it, so that's really what directed me and inspired me to do that. Shredshed wants to know, how many likes on your next video would it take you to light up a set? 1 million likes is probably what it would take, but police can give you trouble for shit that they see on your videos, so I do try to obey the law whenever I've got the camera rolling. Hint, hint. Solidified Shot wants to know, what's my dream car or the favorite car you've owned? That is a really tough question because I like different cars for different reasons. But the favorite car I've ever owned is probably a toss-up between the AU and the BA, which are two cars that I still own today. So that's an interesting one. Ben Hayes has 2 questions. He wants to know what camera gear I'm using and also what editing software I use as well. And what piece of gear you're going to add to your arsenal next. And also how long until you're ready to move on that mobile office pack tray. The answer to that is not very soon. And as for the camera gear that I use, I actually have a Canon G7X Mark II point and shoot camera, which I just have on a simple no-name tripod. And I do have a GoPro Hero and also a GoPro Hero 7. I also have a GoPro 360 Max, which, as the name would suggest, is a 360 camera. That's the one which I use if you've ever seen a video which shows the viewpoint inside the car spinning around. I use a 360 degree camera for that. And as for the editing, I do use Adobe Premiere, which is a really good video editing software. It is quite expensive, but once you get used to it, it's really hard to go and try and use a different software package. Even though it would save me a lot of money, I really do love the way Adobe Premiere works, so I'll be sticking with that one for now. Luke Lappage wants to know if I've ever looked into making the AU Office Pack tables to sell, like 3D printing them or something along those lines. I have thought about getting the office table 3D scanned, but I've sort of stopped myself from doing that because I imagine if I provide the 3D files for free on the internet, someone's going to download it, start printing them and start selling them, which is not something I really want to happen. You know, if it was just people downloading it, printing it for free for their own usage, I would be all for it. The last thing I want to see is someone benefiting financially from something that doesn't really belong to them. You know, it's a Ford product and I'd prefer it to stay that way. Salamat Poe wants to know, can you do a video on the Ford range of 1990? I would love to see my Aussie-built Capri in there too. The Capri is a really interesting car, so that would be a cool one to look at in the future. And as for the Ford range, I guess the EA Falcon would be in there as well, or maybe the EB at that time. But that's very close to the NC Fairlane that I own, so I'm not really sure if I want another E-Series Falcon at this stage. William Stewart doesn't seem to have a question, but he reckons the Falcon coolant overflow tanks should always be dirty, looking like a smoker's lung. So that's a funny opinion. Dayton Alki wants to know what I do for work. All I'll say there is marketing, but I definitely don't like to mention work on my channel. Preems wants to know if there's a car that I used to own that I wish I kept to this very day. And yeah, Honest Car Reviews is kind of right. I did used to own an FD LTD, which is from the mid-1980s. It was the LTD equivalent of the XE Falcon, and that was a really cool car, but unfortunately, I was a bit young at that point, and when the car rusted out, I simply sold it off and got rid of it, instead of fixing it like I probably should have done. Oren Bester wants to know if I always get extra salt on my KFC chippies. I've found that the chips from KFC usually have the perfect amount of salt on them. You know, it's the rare occasion that you'll get them and they don't have enough. So yeah, I don't really see the need of ordering extra salt. You know, maybe it's just the KFCs around me are on the ball and, you know, doing a proper job. Boxman139 wants to know, what video would you say was the most fun to make? I reckon they're all fun. You know, I get a lot of enjoyment out of making these videos. But the best one so far was probably the AU Falcon mobile office pack video. You know, I had a bit of fun with that. I dressed up in a cheap suit, feigned vomiting into a garden bed and things like that. Got a couple of strange looks, but yeah, it was a bit of a laugh to make. Also got Mighty Car Mods involved with that one. So yeah, that was very memorable.
No, I'm not talking shit, man. They're just boring and old and big.
What the fuck are you on about?
Benny W wants to know if I would consider another road trip or touring type video. I think that'd be really cool. You know, I sort of have an idea, like it'd be really interesting to drive the AU out to Ez Rock or something like that. But you're talking about really insane distances, you know, that's like 3 days of solid driving from sunrise to sunset. But yeah, if I had the time off work or if I didn't even have to work, that would be a really cool video to film. Heckler wants to know if I have any more plans making videos with the AU Fairmont, maybe an aftermarket exhaust upgrade, new cat extractors. That would be cool. I'll definitely keep an eye out for systems for sale. And you know, I think it'd be really cool to even put a cheap turbo kit on that thing. Josh Fuller wants to know my long-term plans for the AU and the BA. No real long-term plans. I'm not considering selling them anytime soon, but I'm definitely going to fix them up a little bit better. Xavier wants to know the best P-plate car. If I was a P-plater at the moment, it'd definitely be an AU Falcon, a BA Falcon, or a VT or a VY Commodore or something like that. It really depends on your budget. I think there's a lot of value to be had from the Aussie 6-cylinder cars. And when you talk about the amount of power you get, which you're allowed to have on a P-plate license, you probably can't go past those cars. And we're getting towards the end here. We've got HAZ_D, Hazard underscore something, wants to know, what keeps you coming back to Australian built cars? Have there ever been internationally built vehicles that you've had or experienced that you enjoyed just as much, if not more? I have enjoyed some internationally manufactured cars. I used to own a Daihatsu Mira, which was a really fun little 3-cylinder rocket ship. And of course, the R34 Skyline GT Turbo that I owned previously that I've talked about a bit before. That was really an amazing car for the money. Very well refined, packed with technology. Yeah, awesome. But yeah, Australian cars, I don't know, it must be the sentimental side of me. I just think they're really amazing bits of history, and it's really incredible when you think that we're a country of only 20-something million people that we actually built our own cars, especially for our market. You know, that's financial suicide for any other car maker around the world to be doing something like that. And I guess that just shows what happened. You know, there's no one building cars here anymore because it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think they're really special because of that. And the last one from Dylan, would you consider buying more Holdens such as a Statesman, Commodore VN, VZ? Would you consider a Tickford FPV? One day, definitely would. But yeah, no concrete plans. So thank you very much, guys. That brings us to the end of the question Q&A session. Thank you very much for sticking by me. We'll be back to regular programming next week. But yeah, for now, I'd really appreciate it if there's anyone out there who hasn't hit subscribe or hit the bell icon. Definitely go and do that because it really does help the channel. And if you enjoy some of the videos that I publish like this one, definitely hit the like button as well, because YouTube actually uses that button as a guide as to whether they should recommend that video to other people or not. So if there's a video out there getting lots of likes, it has a higher chance of getting pushed out to other people. So yeah, if you're definitely wanting to support the channel, subscribe and like every single video you watch. And of course, I also have a Patreon account which you can join up. You can pay a couple of dollars a month and get early access to my videos, or pay a little bit more and actually get your name in the credits of those videos. And you'll get to see my videos 24 hours early and a couple of other little perks like teasers and previews about videos that are coming up in the future. So definitely consider dropping by and throwing me a couple of bucks. It is really greatly appreciated. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.